So today's video is going to be a simple one. We're going to be talking about the Mac Mini and my favorite accessories for the Mac Mini. I'm going to go over which keyboard and mouse and storage solution I like. I'm going to also talk about some other aspects that you might want to consider if you have a Mac Mini or if you're in the market of getting these accessories. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is the monitor. So this is a 32-inch Lenovo IPS panel monitor, and I'm very pleased with this monitor. It's not a gaming monitor, it's only 60 Hertz, which is totally fine for me because I'm the type of person that uses a Mac Mini for productivity. So for example, I do video editing, I browse the web, and I do things that basically don't require 144 Hertz. 60 Hertz is more than sufficient for me. So what I will mention though is that I personally recommend getting something like a 32-inch monitor, and 27-inch is okay. I used to use that before, but it's been my experience that using the Retina resolution on, in Mac OS on the Mac Mini, I think that 32-inch is really the sweet spot, and that's why I would recommend 32 inches hands down. One thing I will also mention is there are these different types of monitors. If you want to get the, XDR Apple, or which is like really expensive, by the way, or if you want to get something, like an OLED or IPS, there are these different panel types, and my experience is that if you go with IPS, you cannot make any mistakes. Now, don't get me wrong, there are bad IPS monitors out there, but with IPS, you get good color accuracy most of the time, and the angles, the viewing angle of the monitor is also very, very good when you're using IPS. So that's what I recommend, hands down. Okay. Let's talk about what kind of mouse do you use for your Mac Mini. So I've been using the Magic Mouse on and off for the last couple of years, maybe like 10 years or so. The design hasn't changed much at all, actually, since it first launched. There are good things and bad things with this mouse, as with everything else. I'm gonna mention some of the most obvious ones. Charging port in the bottom. Why Apple? I have no idea. It's like, come on, dude. Like, who puts a charging port in the bottom here? I will, however, say that I do like the multi-gesture touch functionality of the Magic Mouse. It is actually very cool to use, and it is very stylish. I would say that this is hands down the best looking mouse ever, But if you're gonna be working with it, for many hours at a time, it's not very ergonomical. Like, you don't get a lot of support that just sits flat on, on your table. And I mean, it's okay to use, but I would prefer something with a bit more resistance, a bit of a bulb here on the top here. So that's why I really don't like the Magic Mouse that much. So we're gonna be talking about what I do in fact use, and I actually use two devices as a mouse. So here, first of all, is the MX Anywhere, and it's a very portable mouse. It's a very tiny mouse, and it's not because I travel a lot, but that would be a good reason to get it because it is very compact. I would say that if you're gonna get a mouse mostly for comfort, if you're gonna be, editing videos for a really long time, if you're gonna be doing a lot of work, I would recommend the MX Master. Now, you don't see the MX Master here because I no longer use the MX Master, but I have owned a couple of MX Masters. They are by far the most comfortable to hold. The reason why I use the MX Anywhere is because it has something to do with the way I use a mouse. I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed, but it's just a personal preference. When I use a mouse, I sort of only hold it with my fingertips, and so that's why I think this one is the best one to use for that purpose. Now, there are a lot of function buttons on this thing. The scrolling wheel is fantastic to use, and you can switch between 3 different devices. So this is a slam dunk. I mean, come on, dude. Look, it's so tiny and it's so functional. Can't go wrong with this one. However, as I do a lot of video editing on my computer, and I often do use a MacBook, I've actually gotten used to the trackpad on my MacBook computer. And so I actually like the Magic Trackpad. For those of you who are new to the Apple ecosystem, this is a Magic Trackpad, and it basically worked like a trackpad on a MacBook or any laptop, or I wouldn't actually compare it to like Windows PCs or anything like that, because this has multi-touch features that you know, PC computers can only dream about, okay? The Magic Trackpad is fantastic, mostly because it works so well with Mac OS and the way you can do these multi-touch gestures, use 3 fingers, 4 fingers, swipe up, swipe down. Like there's so many things that you can do with this thing. Battery life is good. And the good thing about this one is that there is actually a charging port on the side, which is so much better than the Magic Mouse. So this is something that I actually use quite a bit. Highly recommended. Bit pricey, but I think it's worth it. This is a very cool device. I'll put links in the video description to all of the products that I go over today. Now, let's take this discussion to storage solutions for the Mac Mini. Now, as you know, with Apple is a very special kind of company. They do things their own way. The problem with MacBooks and the Mac Mini, just to mention one thing here, it's actually the storage solution. So the Mac Mini that I use is the M1 version with 256 gigabytes. And it's not a lot of storage, man. I mean, if you're just gonna browse the web, that's totally fine. But if you wanna edit video files or just keep a lot of photos and videos on your computer, then 256 gigs is not gonna cut it. I mean, it's 2022, come on Apple, like we deserve better than this. Just a simple idea of being able to upgrade your storage on a Mac computer is like the one thing that we want the most, and it's the one thing that Apple is probably never going to give us, which is so sad. You could do it on an older version of the Mac Mini, which was fantastic. I used to have one in 2012 and it was awesome. I could put in like 2 SSDs in there. It was fantastic. But on this thing, you can't do it. And so a couple of months ago, I did make a review of this thing. Actually, it wasn't so much of a review. This is the Satechi hub, and you got, you know, some ports, a card reader on the front, because everything is on the back on this thing and there is no card reader. Now, when I first got this thing and I made a video about the Mac Mini and this thing, I was like, this is amazing. This is such a fantastic solution. And in my mind, I was like, there is no way that they can screw this up. Like, this is a perfect product. Like, how can you go wrong with this? This is perfect. But it's trash. I'm sorry. Satechi, I do like some of your other products, but this product is pure garbage. And that you're charging $100 for this thing is just so sad. So what is the problem? Does the SD card reader not work? No, it works fine. But you max out at something like 100 megabytes. Like it's not a very fast SD card reader. The micro SD card reader, same thing. It's not very fast. So if you're going to transfer a lot of video files after a long day of, you know, doing wedding photography or whatnot, it's going to take you a while. Now, another thing that I just didn't like about this thing is that you could plug in an external SSD to this thing. You know, I'm a huge fan of these. This is the Samsung T7, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But it was the same thing. It topped up like at something like 300 megabytes per second. It was nonsense. Like, this is a 1000 megabyte read and write speed, and you're not getting that using this piece of junk. Okay, but they couldn't have failed with the built-in storage solution. So on the bottom here, you have this thing where you can put in your own SSDs, memory cards. So first of all, I bought like this NVMe really fast SSD and it didn't work because this thing does not support NVMe. So you gotta really know your SSDs before you pick one up for this thing. And the second was, when I finally did buy one that worked on this thing, it was really slow. And so I just did not use this thing anymore. I was hugely disappointed. This is trash. Okay, now you do need more storage on your Mac Mini. So we do need to discuss what I would personally use. Now, I would use something like this. This is a Samsung T7. This is a 2 terabyte option. It comes in different colors if you want it in gray or red. I just kind of like this bluish one. Really very fancy. Very fast. The only downside to using something like this for a Mac Mini, if you're doing like heavy video editing or stuff like that, is that this thing does get hot. And when it does get hot, there are these internal chips inside that make sure that it doesn't overheat. And so it sort of clocks down the write and read speed. And so it essentially becomes a much slower SSD. But what I've actually come to realize is that you just need a little bit of airflow on this thing. So normally the best airflow, you know, you have like little fan that will pull cold air in and, you know, blow out hot air. I haven't seen any solutions for that, but if you actually just use a regular fan in your room and you point it at this thing, you actually do get better write and read speeds if you're using this to the max. So that is pretty awesome. Huge fan of this thing, and it's so good to use. It's so light, it's so compact, totally worth it. This is a very good product indeed. And I actually made a review of this thing. I'll put a link down in the video description as well. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the keyboard. I'm not going to talk about speakers because I think that speakers is just such a personal preference type of thing. Like some people do like a lot of bass, some people like a lot of treble, and I like very flat sound for my video editing. So these are the Mackie CR4s. They don't produce these anymore, but I don't know, I'm thinking about maybe upgrading these things to something, maybe something smaller. I'm not sure, but for now, these are totally fine. Not gonna say that I recommend them for everyone. They're definitely not for everyone. Okay, let's talk about keyboards. So what you see is I have two keyboards here. Now, the keyboard that I've used the most over the years is this one. This is the Logitech K380. Fantastic keyboard. It's compact. It's pretty much the same size as the Magic Keyboard. And I love the blue color. I like the fact that you can easily switch between different devices. The buttons are round, but very responsive and good. I really like this keyboard a lot. There are keyboards that have much better battery life, but this one like is fine for a couple of months. I like this keyboard a lot, and it uses just regular AA batteries, or is it AAA? No, it's actually AAA. It's two AAA batteries, and it works really well. So this is the keyboard that I like to use the most. However, recently I have actually switched over to the Apple Magic Keyboard, and basically it's only because of one reason, and it's muscle memory. When I use my MacBook, I have a muscle memory of where all the buttons are. You know, it's especially the function buttons that I just know where they are on my MacBook, and so I want to use that same quick access of your memory of where the buttons are when I'm sitting with this computer. So that's why I sort of like the fact that the keyboard has the same button layout as on my MacBook. Makes sense, right? However, it's not perfect as everything else. I will mention it's good as it does charge actually in the front, like Apple Magic Mouse update, please. But that's very good. You can charge your keyboard and battery life is okay. Nothing to complain about. I will say though that I hate the color. Okay, I would like to have black buttons, a space gray color. Now I know there is a space gray version of a keyboard, but it's the longer one with the number pad, and I'm not a huge fan of number pads, so I don't need that thing. I like my keyboards to be very compact and very efficient in size, and this one pretty much nails it. I really don't like the color. I have actually been considering ordering one of these in custom-made colors. You can actually do that. So I'm actually considering it. But for now, looking at it from a like pure functional standpoint, this is a good keyboard. Simple as that. All right, I think that's it. We've pretty much covered everything here. So hope you enjoyed this little video of my favorite Mac Mini accessories, and don't forget to holler at me down in the comment section. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.